Today, I have a super exciting video for you. I'm going to walk you through how I prepared and passed the NVIDIA Certified Associate AI Infrastructure and Operations certification. Now, if you've never heard of this certification, I'm going to tell you why you absolutely must get this certification. This certification is very beneficial for you to learn because if you have been using AI, you have to know that NVIDIA is one of the major players in the AI space because they build the AI infrastructure and hardware that powers much of the AI tools and services that you've been using. They also have amazing software libraries to maximize the performance on that AI infrastructure. This certification is going to focus mostly on infrastructure and operations. So you're going to have a mix of hardware and also a little bit of focus on the operations in terms of how to use some of NVIDIA's software to monitor performance and ensure that you're getting the most out of that GPU infrastructure, the storage layer, and networking. Now, this certification is an associate level. So think foundational. It's going to be an entry-level credential that's going to validate foundational concepts for AI computing as it relates to infrastructure and operations. The questions are total 50, and this exam is going to be proctored remotely. So if you've never taken a remotely proctored exam, it's a very unique experience. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. You get 60 minutes to answer those questions. That might seem like a lot of questions for a little bit of time, but the questions, they aren't very wordy. As long as you know you've done your studying, there's no real trick questions that they ask you. It's almost like you know it or you don't. One thing I wanted to point out with these associate level certifications, these exams are more about the what as opposed to the how. What is a lot easier to answer on a test than the how, because the what is this and what use case do you map it to, not what is this and how do you configure it. So there's not going to be any how questions, which makes this a lot more straightforward when you go through it. Now, it's going to cover topics like accelerated computing. So accelerated computing is just a fancy way to say high performance hardware that typically has GPUs in it, which stands for graphics processing unit. It's going to focus on AI, machine learning, and deep learning. You don't need to have deep understanding of those technologies. What they do emphasize is the relationship to AI, machine learning, and deep learning, how those are interdependent. The exam is going to expect you to be familiar with GPU architecture. I'll go ahead and just let you know right off the top of the bat. What's special about GPUs is the number of cores they have, typically in the thousands, and the fact that when you put a workload against a GPU, you can get massive parallelism, which is a fancy way to say each one of those cores is taking care of a lot of tasks simultaneously, and that's one of the reasons why it's so performant. It is going to go into some hardware beyond GPU, but we'll dive into that up here soon in the exam study guide. Now, as for the exam study guide, I highly recommend that you download this and review it. It's literally 6 pages. I'm just going to touch on this very briefly here. What I want to point your attention to is the weighting on the exam. So the exam is going to focus on 3 different broad areas. Essential AI knowledge is going to be 38% coverage on the exam, so expect questions to fall up under that domain area. AI infrastructure is going to include a 40% weight, and then the AI operations is 22%. So predominantly AI knowledge and AI infrastructure are carrying the weight of the entire exam. Now, who is this certification going to be right for? If you're in tech right now, if you're in tech, thinking about getting in tech, get yourself educated because we are only at the beginning stages of AI. So if your job entails needing to understand AI workloads and use cases, I'm just going to stop you right there, not waste any more time. Just get this. You don't need any more convincing. Recommended qualifications and experience as recommended by NVIDIA. It says here you need a bachelor's degree in computer science, software engineering, AI, or related field. I'm going to go ahead and stop myself right there. You do not, to understand and comprehend this, do not let that intimidate you. I am not a data scientist. I'm not a computer scientist. I am in tech. I'm telling you right now, you can do this. You don't need any of that. Will it help you if you have that? Yes, but you can absolutely prepare and pass for this without having to have any degrees. And by the time you're finished watching this video in full, you're going to be able to do all that. Let's just focus, filter on through here now. Now, I want to go a little bit more in depth on those weightings. So for that AI knowledge, it's going to expect that you are familiar with the NVIDIA software stack. Now, when you think about NVIDIA, you're like, isn't NVIDIA just a hardware company? You would be amazed to know once you get more deeper into the NVIDIA world. Yes, they make incredible hardware, but guess what? If you want to squeeze the most performance out of that hardware, you got to be familiar with the software stack. It's just at a light level. Things like how to check performance of your GPUs, how to configure the ability to communicate with GPUs, internode and intranode. And this will all come up in the training that I'm going to suggest that you take. Compare and contrast training and inference architectures. So one of the general themes there, training requires a lot of storage and a lot of compute power. In this exam, relative to inference doesn't necessarily take as much compute power as it relates to the exam. I have some different opinions on that out in the real world, but that's kind of like how the exam would approach it. As I mentioned earlier, differentiate concepts of AI, machine learning, and deep learning. Just know the relationship of how they interlink. Explain the factors contributing recent and rapid improvements in AI adoption. So you're going to want to be familiar with a couple of things. One is something called a transformer architecture. That is mentioned in this. And that's a paper that was written, I think, in 2017 timeframe, somewhere thereabouts, as well as that's like a reference architecture in terms of how you can do training and representation of these large language models and foundation models, as well as the advancements in GPU. All these things kind of came together and converged and created the explosion of what we know as the AI era now and generative AI. What else would be important to call out? Explain key AI use cases in industries. So this is just making sure you have a proper business use case which AI could solve. Purpose and use cases of various NVIDIA solutions. That's kind of generic, but the training that I'm going to recommend will kind of iron all that out. Software components related to the life cycle of AI development and deployment. That's some of the NVIDIA software stack. And then contrasting GPU and CPU architectures. One of the highlights there is CPU is really great for serial tasks. The number of cores are a lot less than a CPU. GPU, it can perform simple calculations and it can do so across thousands of cores at a massive parallel scale, which makes it very amazing for AI, in particular training on those transformer architectures. So that's a essential AI knowledge. Just skip on down here to the AI infrastructure, worth 40%. Identify the hardware requirements of AI training tasks. You're going to learn about GPUs, CPUs, and something called DPUs. You may have never heard of a DPU, but it's basically a data processing unit, which allows you to further offload things like some network processing and data-related things that you don't have to allow the CPU or GPU to do. Going to learn about key concepts and high-level specifications for power and cooling in data centers. Cooling and powering a data center is not necessarily anything new. That's been done for decades, but GPU workloads and AI workloads, the requirements for power and cooling are tremendous. So you'll learn some uniquenesses there. Talk about compare and contrast the challenges to on-prem and cloud infrastructure. So the training that you'll do will talk about some of the pros and cons of hosting your AI workloads in an on-premises facility like your own data center versus cloud. That's an interesting conversation. different components and considerations of cluster and accelerated infrastructure. So you'll talk about things like InfiniBand, some software technologies that enable that. You'll talk about RDMA over converged internet, which is basically remote direct memory access over converged internet. I don't want to confuse you with what all that is, but the training that you're going to go through that I'll point out will walk you through all that. Network requirements for AI workloads. Again, I'm going over a lot of stuff, but you just really need to focus on the what, not so much as the how you configure it, which is great. Let's see here. High-speed data center network options and use cases. That's where the InfiniBand is going to pop up. You're going to learn what a DPU is, which I mentioned earlier. So that's pretty much the AI infrastructure piece of it. And then the last portion, which is AI operations, worth 20%. Describe data center management and monitoring essentials. In this section, you're going to learn about some of NVIDIA's software tools to check on performance. And what I would say is most important to highlight here is there's performance and monitoring both at the granular level, which is going to be on a single node, and then there's going to be performance across multiple nodes, and then as well as like the overall data center type environment. And the training will go over kind of like that narrow focus view versus like that broader scale view. And that's going to be important to, when you get questions on that, to be able to select what's the right piece of software to focus drilling in on a particular node versus the overall data center. Job scheduling is going to come up. You're going to need to know, like, just at a basic level, what Kubernetes is and the advantage of that in an AI workload, as well as a scheduling framework called Slurm, S-L-U-R-M. Just know that at a high level and make sure you don't get those two things confused. You're going to be fine. Being able to articulate key measures and criteria related to monitoring GPUs. Yeah, there's some software that you need to know what it is and the fact that it can check on your GPU utilization. That'll be in the training. That'll pop up on there. And that's kind of things at a high level. Now, I'm going to recommend you 2 trainings that you can go and do. The first training I'm going to recommend is the first training that I was aware of for this certification. The second one that I'm going to recommend, I didn't even know this was available until after I had taken the first. So let me go into this right now. The first training you're going to want to take a look at is the AI Infrastructure and Operations Fundamentals training. This is going to be a training that is provided directly from NVIDIA. It's about 7 hours worth of training. Now, you could speed up the training if you want to do 1.25x or 1.5x. I tend to speed up my training, so you could consume this a lot faster. I'm not going to read this slide here to you, but this training is aligned, as you would expect, big shocker, right, very closely to the objectives of the actual certification. So I thought it was very valuable, and you could take a look at that. It is $50, 50 USD. My understanding is there's a way, I've heard there's a way you can get it for free. I looked into it, but when I looked at it, it seems to be based on what country you originate from. So I wasn't able to get it for free. I paid $50 for it. Speaking of which, I don't know if I mentioned, when you register for the certification exam, it's going to be 125 USD. It's not the, excuse me, is it 25? Yeah, 125. It's not the cheapest certification in terms of cost in the world, not the most expensive. I mean, I think it's worth it, right? Because I think it's a very valid credential to get. So when I prepare for a certification, I like to over-prepare. Do you need to do the 2 trainings I'm going to recommend? Not necessarily, but I want to make sure that I not only pass a certification, but after that certification, I have a deep understanding of what it is I learned, and I'm not just going to forget it after I pass that exam. I like to get certified, but for me, the certification is just a framework and a curated path, roadmap for me to go learn a new technology. But yeah, definitely check this out. And then the second training, which I learned about, is a class on Udemy. Now, this is my buddy here, Ashish. Ashish actually worked at AWS at the same time that I worked at I got a chance to interact with Ashish. He does a number of great things for the community. He also is an instructor for this training that he does with a few other people in the community called BESA, B-E-S-A, I think it's Become a Solutions Architect. That's a whole separate thing that Ashish does. But this training here is called Master NVIDIA AI Infrastructure and Pass the NCAIO. That's just the abbreviation for what the certification is. This training is incredible. I'm just going to expand a few of these sections so you see what you get here. Let me see. Certification details. He goes in depth on that. Module 1, fundamentals. Drivers of AI evolution. AI use cases across industries. Machine learning AI, deep learning, generative AI. He really teaches you with, what do you call them? Analogies. So not only tell you theoretically how to understand these concepts, but to really cement the knowledge, he uses analogies. He goes over the transformer model. Remember, I mentioned this earlier to you. I'm telling you, like, if you only wanted to spend money on one course, like you didn't want to do both of them, get this one. I believe that if you just did this course, you could probably clear that exam and have, and not only clear the exam, but have a really great conceptual knowledge of NVIDIA at the levels that are tested in the exam that you can even benefit from the real world. So yeah, I won't flesh all of these out, but like, for example, this is a section on inside AI-centric data, data center, power usage, compute power, CPU versus GPU. This is an amazing course that I highly recommend that you check out. So yeah, these are the resources that I use for the exam. Oh, one thing I would mention too, that I would also recommend, Ashish also has practice questions that you can, I think it's about 100 of them. That's separate. So that's a separate resource that you could purchase to get. I highly recommend practice questions after you have learned all the concepts so you can practice your recall and then get a feel for the types of questions that would be asked for you on the exam. And then the one last thing I wanted to mention is the exam itself. Now, this exam is remotely proctored. So at this time, you cannot go to a testing facility to take the exam. You have to take it remotely. So you can take it in your house and you can take it in your home, your office, whatever. There are a number of restrictions regarding this. So your environment needs to be quiet. You can't have any loose papers around. And when you sign up for this, they remotely proctor you. No one talks to you, but they communicate with you through a chat window. You have to have your webcam on, and they will ask you to scan your environment. When I did the test, I scanned my environment 360. Then they told me scan it again. Then they told me show them the desk. Then they wanted me to take my webcam, go up under my desk, look at every corner. So it is no joke. And you know, you can't be talking to yourself or looking off the screen for long periods of time. You need to be focused directly on the screen itself. So, you know, I thought that this was more stressful than just going into the proctor facility. You would think, well, I'm in the comforts of my own home. It'd be more relaxed. But I'm scared to like look this way, look that way, or I'm scared to even like scratch my ear or yawn. I'm like, okay, so for like an hour, I'm like looking straight at the screen, making sure I don't want to hardly even blink. But I don't want to scare you on that. It's fine. Just make sure like you don't have anything, because they're just trying to maintain the integrity of the exam so that when you pass this, you've done something right. And I can appreciate that. But yeah, definitely go check this certification out. I think it's highly valuable. And if you haven't already, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'm always happy to answer your questions there in the comments. Let me know what you want to see in the next video. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.